Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to today's newspaper review. Let's take a look at the top stories dominating the headlines today. First, we'll start with the Daily Trust. On the Daily Trust newspaper, the lead page says AG mandated us to open accounts for Phantom Council. That's coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria. You get the full story on page 3 and page 4 of the newspaper. Still in the same newspaper at the bottom, how thunderstorm claims 6 children. This is a very sad story. Thunderstorm claimed the lives of 6 children. Then at the top of the newspaper on page 7, Jigawa boat accident, death toll hits 8 and 9 other people are missing. Still in the same newspaper, 2 Ansaru terrorist commanders back life imprisonment. The full story is on page 23 of the newspaper. And then the ICPC are kicking against this particular punishment. They are requesting for death penalty instead of this life imprisonment. Then on page 30 of the newspaper, protest in Ondo, Kwara as APC uploads governorship candidate. So there are protests in Kwara State and Ondo State as a result of the APC governorship candidate that has been uploaded in the INEC portal. We now move away from that newspaper to the Matrix newspaper. On the Matrix newspaper in page 2, fresh twist hits PFIPC scandal saga. Recall that the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council scandal is still ongoing between Adeyemi and Bajamila. So the full story is on page 2 of the newspaper. Then at the top of, in the middle of the newspaper on 2027, Kwankwaso revealed Peter Obi's one-term agreements with NDC. He says Obi has his country in mind. He is someone to be relied on. That is coming from the NDC vice presidential candidate. He's backing his running mate, Peter Obi, that he has the country's at heart. Still in the same newspaper, by the right of the newspaper, Lagos disburses 3.1 billion naira to property owners affected by land acquisition. Then on page 2 of the newspaper as well, Tinubu appoints Fayose Bindawa 24 orders into key federal agencies. Still in the same newspaper at the bottom of the newspaper, terrorism, court jails Ansaru commander for life. DSS kicks 6 death penalty. So the DSS are actually against this particular life imprisonment and they are seeking death penalty. I think this is what is actually best for this terrorist group, death penalty and not life imprisonment. We move away from that newspaper to the Daily Sun. On the Daily Sun newspaper on page 2, this particular headlines is what is dominating most of the newspaper today. On terrorism, Nigerians cheer as Ansaru commanders back life imprisonment. The full story is on page 4 of the newspaper. Then at the top of the newspaper, coming from the vice president of Nigeria, Shatima, to South Africa, he says Nigerian students funded your freedom. The full story is on page 9 of the newspaper. Then on page 6 of the newspaper, where you get the full details about this particular headline, that the Nigerian Labour Congress are pushing for new minimum wage. Then at the bottom of the same newspaper, this is coming from the ADC presidential candidate Atiku. He lambasted the federal government over concealment of 12.8 trillion naira under service-wide vote in 2026 budget. You get the full story on page 6 of the newspaper. Then on page 5 of the newspaper, police detain 4 officers for extorting 53,000 naira from ICPC chairman. So 4 officers are being detained as a result of extorting 53,000 naira from the ICPC chairman. Then Jigawa mourns as 40 died in both capsized. The full story is on page 9 of the newspaper. Most of the victims are actually women and children. This is a very sad one, and condolence to the deceased and families. We move away from that newspaper to the Guardian newspaper. On the Guardian newspaper, PFIPC scandal, ICPC quizzes Bajamila as House summons key agency over lapses. You get the full story on page 6 of the newspaper. At the top of the newspaper, First Whole Company delivers 1.93 trillion naira gross earnings, 653.5 billion naira PBT in HI 2026. Then on page 3 of the newspaper, death. Tinubu has not borrowed 80 trillion naira. This is coming from Oyedele as it reports to the Senate that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has not borrowed 80 trillion naira. Then on page 3 of the newspaper as well, terrorists using drones, crypto to boost operational capabilities. United Nations warns. The United Nations has issued a warning that terrorists are using drones and cryptocurrency to boost operational capabilities. In the middle of the newspaper, group sues Omayi, IGP, others over Habila's death. Recall the physiotherapist that died in Ebonyi State. A certain group are suing the former governor of Ebonyi State, David Omayi, and the Inspector General of Police over the girl's death. Then on page 6 of the newspaper, Kwankwaso confirms single-term path with Obi, queries APC's Muslim ticket. He says that the US are against this Muslim APC ticket, and he has confirmed the single term of his running mate Peter Obi. Then on page 7 of the newspaper, ADC demands full disclosure of 7.13 trillion naira energy security expenditure. We move away from that newspaper to the Vanguard newspaper. On the Vanguard newspaper, how PFIPC got into 2020 budget by Adeyemi, that's the Director General of the PFIPC. The full story is on page 5 of the newspaper. Then at the top of the same newspaper, First Whole Company delivers 1.93 trillion naira gross earnings and 653.5 billion naira PBT in H1 2026. At the bottom of the newspaper, coming from the federal government, they say that Nigerians' death figures is exaggerated. That's the debt that Nigerians are owing is exaggerated. The figures are actually exaggerated. The full story is on page 8 of the newspaper. Then on page 8 of the same newspaper, 2027, Kwankwaso confirms written one-term agreement with Obi. Kwankwaso hasn't confirmed the written one-term agreement with Obi. Then House of Representatives begin clause-by-clause review of State Police Bill. The full story is on page 9 of the newspaper. Then on page 15 of the newspaper, on the foreign scene, that's United Kingdom. Recall that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, resigned, and then his successor, Bonham, has stepped in, and then he promises to address cost of living crisis in the United Kingdom. You can get the full story on page 15 of the newspaper. We move away from that newspaper to the Daily Monitor. On the Daily Monitor, ICPC grills Bajamila over alleged role in PFIPC scandal. The full story is on page 2 of the newspaper. At the top of the newspaper, DSS to appeal life sentence on 2 Ansaru top terror commanders. The full story is on page 2 of the newspaper. The DSS, they are against this life imprisonment, and they want death penalty on this terrorist group. Then at the bottom of the newspaper on page 1, coming from the federal government, they say that Nigerians' death figures is exaggerated. Still in the same newspaper on page 3, troops arrest suspected Sudanese foreign terrorist fighter. Ghanaian alleged legal migrants. The terrorist group has arrested and suspected Sudanese foreign terrorist fighter and also a Ghanaian alleged illegal migrants. Still in the same newspaper on page 3 as well, FCCPC resumes implementation of digital lending regulations. We move away from that newspaper to the New Telegraph. On the New Telegraph newspaper on page 3 and page 6, 2026 Appropriation Bill. Northern Christians challenge the federal government over disparity in 8.5 billion naira religious project. Then at the top of the newspaper, 143 firms jottle for 50 oil, gas blocks as NUPRC open bids. The full story is on page 3 of the newspaper. Reps begin review of Tinubu State Police Bill. The full story is on page 4 of the newspaper. This is coming from Ajero. He says that the Nigerian Labour Congress to commence nationwide struggle for minimum wage review. You get the full story on page 2 and page 6 of the newspaper. We move away from that newspaper to our last newspaper for today, which is the First Daily. The lead page says state police move gains momentum. The reps begin debate on Tinubu State Police Bill. Then at the top of the newspaper, Nnamdi Kanu sues woman for 500.2 billion naira over alleged defamation. That's the IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu has sued a woman for 500.2 billion naira alleged defamation. Still in the same newspaper, ICPC questions Bajamila over PFIPC scandal. Still in the same newspaper, Nigeria, UK deepen security partnership against terrorism and cybercrime. Still in the same newspaper, police detain 4 officers over alleged extortion of ICPC chairman. Recall that the 4 officers extorted 53,000 naira from the IPC chairman. Then by the right side of the newspaper, United Nations warns terrorists using drones and cryptocurrency in Nigeria. The UN has warned that terrorists are using drones and cryptocurrency to fight terrorism in Nigeria. And the last headline for today, Sowore demands Umahi's arrest over missing engineers. Recall the engineers that were missing in Ebonyi State. Sowore has raised the same topic again, and then this time around he is demanding the arrest of David Umahi over this missing engineers. These missing engineers, they don't know where their bodies are, they don't know if they're still alive or not, and Sowore is demanding for the arrest of David Umahi. We'll keep looking at as the stories unfold. We've come to the end of the newspaper review. Many thanks for watching, and do stay tuned as we bring you more updates. I am Cassie Tony.